Hello, and thank you all for joining us again here today on Hessen County for another TTRPG talk. This video series takes a look at tabletop role-playing games and related materials, makes suggestions for your own home games and world design, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today we're going to be taking a look at something that will be very useful in the near future for our SRD series. I'll put a link up in the little info card that will point you to a video if you don't know what SRDs are and you're very interested in potentially learning more about them. But the TLDR here is just that an SRD is a system reference guide, which is a specific tool that you can utilize. It's basically like a combination of different types of rule sets and stuff published under a license so that you can potentially utilize those rules and tools, again, under said license, to create your own materials. And today is not obviously the biggest, but definitely a very old and storied both engine and company creating it, and that is because this is the new hardback version of basic role-playing. This is the Universal Game Engine. This is created by Chaosium. They are the people behind a number of very historic games in role-playing, in addition, primarily starting with RuneQuest, and that's actually where basic role-playing essentially got started. Most of the Chaosium games are based on this engine, or at least some variation thereof. This is sitting at the core of most of their games. Not necessarily all of them, but most of them. So this is essentially the newest version of that in book form. There was a basic role-playing book that you could utilize. Again, it was sort of a generic rule book. It wasn't the SRD, but it was a generic rule book that you could utilize to play essentially a number of different generic games in your own world. Basically, homebrew your own stuff to essentially to attach to it, or you could use that as a base while playing other systems built on the basic role-playing engine if you needed like a rules reference or something for something that they couldn't necessarily publish. So again, this is basically, it's not really a second edition, but it kind of is. I mean, so let's just go ahead and first we'll take a look through the book as basically like an artifact, right? A thing that we now have. And once we're done with that, later on, what we'll probably do, either in this video or in another one, we will actually go through like basic rules and how. And I will definitely planning on creating an actual basic role-playing sort of SRD video once I have absorbed some of the new changes that have been made to this engine. So let's go ahead and just taking a look at the cover. Obviously, we have our nice good text. This actually looks, I don't know necessarily how good the quality of all of this is going to be coming through on the camera. So for that, I apologize if it's not that great. But from what I can see, the text and stuff and the logos over here are very nice. They're very crisp. They do have a bit of a texture to them. The picture underneath looks a little fuzzy, I will admit. It looks a little fuzzy, but I can't quite tell if that's intentional because of just the style of the art. It's supposed to look a bit graphic-y because of all of the little artifacts and things on the sides and stuff. And some of the elements here do suggest sort of like, maybe cyberpunky sort of style stuff, but it could also just be it could also just be that the picture really needed to be like more pixels, bigger when they did the printing, or the print got messed up. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But anyway, yeah, because I can tell. Yeah, I'm guessing it's definitely the latter because the words also are a little fuzzy in here because there's like basic and actions and get. I can barely read that. It's gotten so weird and pixelated. I can barely read it. I'm pretty sure it says Game Master Adventure. I can't even read that. Dice. It's all pretty fuzzy, and I'm not entirely sure if that was intentional. So for anyone who's actually seen the cover of the original, this is an homage to that. The original sort of gold cover basic role-playing book had essentially this sort of Vitruvian man with them holding a bunch of different things and stuff. Here we've taken it a step further because we've also integrated in different elements from different games that Chaosium has created utilizing this engine. So of course we have a couple of references here to RuneQuest. Like I believe this is actually one of the deities from RuneQuest, this blue person right here. Um, Here we have with this coiling uh, octopus arm, a squid arm. This seems to me to be a pretty clear reference to the different sorts of Cthulhu games that they make. Um, and yeah, there's a couple of other ones that are a bit more like science fiction-y, which makes sense, and just generic fantasy, uh, and so on. So yes, definitely seeing some references there. So we'll go ahead and crack it open. This is very nice. I especially like that this has that sort of the same pattern, but it's two-toned very closely to one another. It does look a little bit different, but I think it's essentially more like along the lines of like a line art version of what was on the cover. And of course, we have it repeat here. And moving on. So we'll just go ahead and point out right here. This does say it is the first American edition, 2023, version 1.02. So that is the version essentially of the PDF that they used to create this. Important to note here that it says, with very few exceptions, trademark terms, the text of the basic role-playing universal game engine is available for personal and commercial use under the ORC license. The reproduction of artwork, illustrations, graphic design, or trade dress from this book for the purposes of personal corporate profit by photographic, optical, electronic, or other media or other methods of storage and retrieval is prohibited. So essentially, basically, this is under the ORC license. For those of you who don't remember, or those of you who don't know, the ORC license essentially was a response of a number of different companies to the whole debacle about the open game license. So yeah, and there obviously are some notes here where places where it is kept. And of course here we have all of the usual chapters that you would expect to see: introduction, characters, skills, powers, the systems, combat, spot rules, equipment, game mastering, settings, creatures, and we have an appendices and an index. Very nice line art here. I am somewhat disappointed that these numbers are so small, especially when they're not on like a flat or at least much lighter colored background. And these are not like bolded or bigger, especially considering the size of this. That really should have been bigger. It actually makes it a little hard to read. I'm going to say that. Alrighty. So we're just going to flip through. Oh, here. Oh, this is interesting. Again, we have another reference to the Vitruvians. I'm sorry if this is not coming here. Let me put that at an angle. This is very light, so it's kind of hard to see. But we actually have different Vitruvian people all the way around. Let's see if we can identify some of these. Okay, this is clearly an alien. We have a pirate, a knight, sort of dressed in like Knight Templar clothing, but they have like a triangle instead of an upside down triangle instead of a cross. This looks like some sort of zombie creature. Up here we have this is like a Rune World reference, RuneQuest reference rather. Up here we have a robot that looks like they came from the Metropolis movie. Sorry, you can't see that. Yeah, but here the shape of the head and stuff looks very much like the android from the Metropolis movie. We have this is a reference to the Cthulhu games that take place in the Old West. I'm not sure what this one is. It almost looks like Frankenstein, but I'm not sure. It could be just a generic god or something. Here we have some sort of horned god or demon. And then here we have a superhero. So that's interesting. Okay, anyway, so of course we have our introduction. The quality of the picture looks much bigger here, so that makes me think that we had it this size and then we blew it up to this size, and that's what messed up when we printed this, because the texture and the quality of the picture, at least to me, looks very different from the text around it. Anyway, going back to this. Um, we have very basic information. What is a role playing game? Length of play, purpose of play, responsibilities of who. Here, of course, we're introducing two systems that they have created that use rule sets just like this, like the Call of Cthulhu line and the RuneQuest line, which I already mentioned, and Pendragon. That one I did forget. Yes, Pendragon. So this is just sort of showing you here's some starter sets. They're starter rules that you could use for systems that utilize our engine, right? Which makes sense. Just talking about some basic terminology. So this is like a terminology glossary to kind of introduce people to concepts like what is a D100. As you can see, the text is very small, at least in this section, except for the headers and stuff. The text is small. It is good. I think it's nice that we have a contrast between the black and some of the, you'll notice, like especially like here on the cover, this text here, and then the text in the manual itself. All of the headers and stuff are brown, which does let it, they're sort of like a goldish browny color, like a bronze color. It's bronze. It's bronze. So it lets it pop some with all the black text around it, which does make it a little bit easier to see it, especially when things are getting really dense. Dice, miniatures. Here we go. Okay, so here we start talking about characters. Very nice. Very nice art there. Characteristics. Here we go. And here we have our character sheets. Pretty good. Oh, this is nice. This is very nice. Okay, so here we have basically an explanatory sheet going through each of the steps in a circle that we need to do in order to create our character, with a mock-up of the character sheets in the middle to remind us of this is what we're doing this work on. It doesn't necessarily point out specific locations, but still very useful. Because if you were pointing out specific locations that certain things are happening on, that would get very busy. You'd have to go do this whole thing over maybe 4 or 5 pages instead. But very useful. And I think this is actually available as an independent PDF, which would be very nice. Here's that picture that was on the that was back on the, yeah, it's the same picture. Okay. The again, text is kind of small. On tables, it gets really small. If you have some vision problems, taking a look at these tables will probably be a problem. Like, I have corrective lenses for long distance, not for reading, but me sitting back, maybe I'd have to say probably I'm like half a meter ish from like the text to right where my finger is. I can barely read that. Um, just partly, admittedly, it's obviously it's a bit at an angle, right? But I can see that it reads each leg, but that's partly because I happen to know that out of context. It would be hard for me to read. Obviously, if somebody had vision issues, especially reading vision issues, you're trying to read without glasses or something, you'd have to get pretty, or even if you have issues with glasses, you'd have to get pretty close. And in these headers, the dark brown with white text that's kind of thin, especially if you have light shining on it the way that I do here, and it kind of like reflects a tiny bit off the paper in a weird way. You have a little bit of gloss from just the fact that it's like fresh paper. Speaking of which, the paper is nice and thick. It's not glossy. This is matte. So just something to note if you prefer having nice smooth pages. This is not the super smoothest paper, but which is fine for exactly what this is. it does mean that pictures don't necessarily look as nice as it would if this was like a super gloss on every page. But of course, that would obviously be a lot more expensive. Um, the numbers are also a little small down here. It'd be nice if these were a little bit bigger so they could pop out a bit more or had some more around them to make it easier to draw your eye to it. So it'd be easier. These are nice though at the top, the chapter sections. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead some. Again, we've got some nice pictures. Again, text in places is a little small. I mean, it might be fine for a PDF when you can really zoom in, but for a book, it's a little small. Even I don't know, even on a computer screen, I would kind of hesitate to make them this small. Ooh, yeah, that's really small. Yeah, that's some of this is pretty small. I mean, it's usable. I could definitely use it, but you know, it's not very accessible to make text this small. But then again, if they didn't, I mean, this thing is already over 250 pages. If they made the text much bigger, they'd probably have to go to like 400 potentially, make it 2 books. Um, so yeah, we've got all of these skills. Start cutting stuff out. Here we go. Something I forgot to note earlier is that we do have a ribbon bookmark, a nice gold ribbon, goldish yellow ribbon bookmark, popped here in the middle. Talking about powers. Oh no, that's creepy. I don't know if you can see it, but the little girl over here has red eyes and is smoking, and is staring at this woman who's like staring blankly at us, holding a gun, who clearly just shot through that thing. Oh yeah, here's this will be much easier to see. Here is the that Vitruvian person that I mentioned about the android that looked like they just walked out of the Metropolis movie. Oh, and I've actually seen this before. This art resistance table, good. I mean, the tables are very useful. They have nice, good, useful information in them. They're just have really small text. Yep, and there's our god demon thing. Through here. Oh, yep, Pendragon. Major wounds, damage and healing. People jousting. Spot rules. Oh, so that's an astronaut. That's a classic astronaut, not a superhero. Okay. Oh, these are in alphabetical order. I don't know why that's something that's never popped into my head before, but that's actually really useful. I don't know why I've never thought of that before. Here we have a list of all of the spot rules for very specific action sequences or something where you might need rules for falling, right? Oh, falling. Okay, yeah. So I just flip through it and then, whoops, I went way too far. Falling. Aha. Here we go. Alphabetical order. Falling. Ta-da. Right. If we were gonna bother putting them in alphabetical order, I almost feel like it would have been nice if we just like stuck a little tag that gave us like a dictionary, sort of like everything from E to. I know I'm asking a lot. Anyway, I just feel that would make it a little bit easier, especially for someone like me who oftentimes will open up a dictionary. I'm like, wait, how do I spell that word? Oh, right, which means it's on which page? Anyway. Okay, so we have equipment. Again, these are looking the spot art is very nice. I know I'm going to keep ranting about it. Oh, metric conversions. That's nice. Ooh, interesting. Okay. All right. Game mastering. Let's see. Setting the tone. Setting. That's actually. Wait. Now, I know part of the reason why the game mastering section is so small is because the game mastering section doesn't actually contain rules like, let's say, a game master's guide would. It's literally just like, how do you do this? Who are you? What are you supposed to be doing? Right? But does seem quite brief. I obviously haven't read it yet, so I don't know, but we'll see. Creating a setting. So they give us some examples on things that we could do to help create a setting. Super world, near future cyberpunk, multiple settings. That'd be very good. So we got all of our nasty ickies and aliens and who knows what all else. Science fiction creatures. Oh, here we go. This is nice. A non-player character digest. Even in a book like this that doesn't have like a setting, this is pretty nice to have, just to give you a basic idea of like, if you want this type of character, here's a way to build it in order to give it the type of power and stuff that you really want your character to have. Very nice art there. Of course, here we have our bibliography and afterword. Here's our index, and then we have our character sheets. This is for non-player characters, and a vehicle and a mount sheet. And that is the book. Oh, and of course here we have our basic role-playing Chaosium's logo. And of course here we have the back. A system for core rules for a tabletop role-playing game, whether you're a seasoned role-playing veteran or new to the hobby. Basic role-playing has everything you need for years of entertainment. Oh, so it says here, basic role-playing is a definite resource to help you create and sell your own tabletop role-playing games. BRP is a complete royalty-free system reference document, SRD. Use these rules and focus on creating your world and scenarios. So basically, with the exception of a certain couple of items in here, mainly like obviously the pictures, right, and certain terminology, trade terminology that's used specifically by Chaosium in creating their games and stuff. It sounds to me like this whole thing is covered under orc, which is nice because that means that this is essentially a very thick and complicated reference guide, but you could essentially use it as a systems reference document of a sort. So I will dive into this, take a look at what all's going on inside these, as I said, 250 some odd pages. It is very light. It does feel fairly light in the hand for a book this thick, which makes me, again, think that, you know, this is, I mean, it's decent paper, right? It's definitely not, it's decent paper, but it's like, you know, it's the type of paper that you would expect to have like in a cheaper hardback book. Um, it's not like the super glossy. It's not like the heavy, dense, super glossy stuff, which is fine for this type of book, at least as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, if this is a book you're going to be flipping through and using constantly every day, that might become a problem. But it also comes with a PDF. That is something I did want to mention. When you do get this book from Chaosium, it does come with the PDF, so you're not just getting the book by itself. In any case, this was a sort of unboxing and flip through of the basic role-playing universal game engine from Chaosium. Again, just to kind of remind everybody, this was not a sponsored video. I bought this myself. This is not sponsored. This is not sponsored. Don't worry, I did not get anything for free. It's all this is my own purchase. So anyway, thank you all for joining us again here today on Hessens County. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that jazz. And of course, if you want to keep an eye out for that video on the basic role playing SRD. And don't forget to, and if you want, of course, there will be a link to the video, to the video playlist of all of the sort of SRD style systems that we've looked at, described, talked about in our channel. So again, thank you all for joining us again here today, and have a good zone. If you would like to show your support for this channel or for the Hessens County blog, in the description down below, you will find links to the channel coffee and also the itch store. please feel free to take a look, and thank you for your support.